Are you ready? Are you ready for this? This is gonna be fun. For the next, here's how it's gonna happen. For the next 40 minutes, we're gonna hear from 5 Together Bay Area members and the work that they're doing for biodiversity in the region. And I just gotta say that Together Bay Area members are amazing. They're doing such cool, important, critical work. So I'm really excited to hear these presentations and really excited to share them with you. Each presentation is only gonna be 5 minutes long. So these are like bite sizes of big, complicated projects. Think like brownie bites, which, you know, after you finish one, you kind of want more. That's kind of how we're setting this up. We want you to want more. So after the presentations, we'll give you the speaker's contact information, and we'll also set up a breakout room, which you can move to on your own and ask follow-up questions. We really know that we understand that there's a lot to learn here, and we want to give you a little bit of information so that you can learn and connect offline. Then after the showcase, the rest of our time together will be a virtual happy hour. No, it's not the same as a real life happy hour, but it's what we can do right now to connect you all, to bring some joy to our lives, to keep everyone safe and healthy. So we'll have 4 breakout rooms set up with dancing and games, and I'll tell you more about that later. Right now, I want to introduce 2 people. First is Ariana Rickert, our political director and trivia game developer, and Jose Seca, a Together Bay Area board member and conversation starter. In his day job, Jose is the environmental affairs officer for East Bay Municipal Utility District, or East Bay MUD. And with that, Ariana and Jose, please take it away.
Thanks, Annie. So welcome everyone to our first Together Tuesday. So we're gonna get the conversation going here. So we want you to keep putting some answers in the chat. We wanna know who's here and start the conversation. So we've got 3 questions for you. First one, share your name, your organization or agency or tribe, and how you're feeling right now in 1 word. I know that 1 word is a hard one. You have to like think about it. Great. We've got excited, preoccupied, Jan Schreiner, Santa Clara County Parks, hopeful, Susan Kirks, Pauline, Action Network, grateful, people feeling good. Avra from the Coastal Conservancy is feeling overwhelmed. So thank you all for sharing. Keep those coming. We love to see all those comments and participation in the chat. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jose. What's 1 question that you want to pose as we come together today?
Well, first of all, welcome and good afternoon, everyone. My question is, what gives you hope? There's a lot of things out there that probably you can answer in the opposite of that, but in terms of, you know, what are the good things out there that give you hope? I'm seeing words, collaboration. I don't know if that's a leftover from the other question or my kids, here we go. No on recall, youth, vaccine rollout, more kids, youth. That's a really good one. You got some pets, got rescue horse, got youth is a common one. Biden, friends, family, and community, human spirit. So a lot of people related answers, which is a good thing. I mean, that's what the organization, well, we got dolphins. Dolphins are cool. But you know, the organization is about people and bringing people together. So it's nice to see all these answers that kind of revolve around people and now transitioning into nature. Ariana, do you have the next question?
Yeah, thanks, Jose. That is a good transition because today, our first Together Tuesday, the theme is biodiversity. So I have a question about Bay Area biodiversity. So please put in the chat what your favorite flora, fauna, animal, or maybe if you were an animal, what animal would you be? And not to be biased, flora, if you were a plant, which plant would you be? Which one do you feel like really encapsulates your personality and philosophy on life? All right, we've got some acorn woodpeckers. Ooh, you know, that is one of my favorite birds. Ooh, valley oak, a tiger. Nice. Steelhead trout, poison oak. I'm interested in that answer. That is not what I expected, poison oak. Bush lupine, ooh, beautiful and hardy. Newts, I do love newts. I always go out and check them out in the spring. Well, thank you. Those are really awesome answers. And I'm gonna have to go back and read through all of them. I am going to turn it back over to Annie. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you so much. We're going to need to talk about wanting to be poison oak. I mean, maybe it's power. Maybe the fear you inspire in so many people is the reason. There's a lot there. Thank you all so much for sharing and for continuing to share. We really want the chat function here to be active. So please jump in, add to your answers, and let's keep the conversation going. So we're going to start our member showcase. If you attended our spring summit in May, you may be familiar with what we're about to do. We are going to have five-minute presentations by Together Bay Area members about projects that they're working on related to biodiversity. The presentations are limited to 3 slides. So these are really meant to be short and sweet and high energy and interesting, with the intention that there will be follow-up and ways to continue conversations in more depth later. These are big, complicated topics that by no means are we going to be able to fully cover in 5 minutes. We know that. And we want to make it easy for more people to know about the amazing work that Together Bay Area members are doing. So with that, I'd like to welcome our first speaker. Doug Johnson from the California Invasive Plant Council is going to talk to us about Bay Area coordinated stewardship.
All right. Thanks, Annie. Can you see my screen?
Looks great.
Excellent. Well, hi, everybody. It's great to be here this afternoon. We all know that attending to the health of our lands and waters needs to happen at the broad landscape level. And here in the Bay Area, you've probably heard of regional efforts such as OneTam in Marin County, or the Santa Cruz Mountains Stewardship Network in San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Santa Cruz counties. But there are other important landscape level partnerships that tend to be a little less visible. And I want to talk about one of them today, which is weed management areas, or WMAs. These are typically county collaborations. I'm not talking about cannabis here, but rather invasive plants. So for 20 years, these county weed management areas across the Bay Area have brought together a range of land management partners to share information and collaborate on projects across jurisdictions. And that is essential infrastructure for landscape level stewardship. As you know, invasive plants or wildland weeds are a top threat to biodiversity globally. The current IUCN meeting in France and the upcoming United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity meeting in China are both setting ambitious goals for controlling invasive species. Controlling weeds in the Bay Area means going after widespread bad actors like French broom, which probably most of you recognize, but also working to stop newer weeds from taking over, and that part can be tricky. This year, partners across the region work together to set priorities for new weed species to control as part of an approach called early detection and rapid response. Early detection and rapid response is itself a part of an overall approach of IPM, or integrated pest management. Setting these priorities helps to focus the limited resources we have where they can be most effective. There are literally hundreds of weed species listed by the state and by our nonprofit organization, the California Invasive Plant Council. Advance the slide here. So, for instance, San Mateo County is doubling down on controlling rush skeleton weed, while Sonoma County zeroes in on woolly distaff thistle, and Solano County works to get on top of false yellowhead, a new detrichia for those of you who know stinkwort. Each of these counties doing this work so they can keep these new weeds from spreading to the rest of the Bay Area. Meanwhile, major threats like Japanese knotweed, which is one of the Pacific Northwest's most challenging weeds, and giant reed, Arundo donax, are finding a foothold along Bay Area creeks and waterways, and these are priorities as well. Effectively controlling these top priority weeds absolutely requires the collaborative approach of weed management areas. There we we go. So finally, I'd like to take us to the San Francisco Bay's tidal marshes. As you know, a majority of these wetlands have been destroyed by development over the years, and those that remain are a precious ecological resource for wildlife. Like all habitats in California, these salt marshes are vulnerable to invasive plants. You've probably heard of invasive Spartina hybrids that destroy mudflats needed by migratory waterfowl. You may have heard of invasive sea lavender, Limonium species, that spread over higher marsh areas. You most likely have not heard of seashore paspalum, a grass just identified forming thick mats, excluding other vegetation, in Santa Clara County. Each of these species is at a different point in its management trajectory. Spartina has been managed for close to 20 years by the state's Coastal Conservancy with an investment of millions of dollars. It's been reduced by over 90% across the area. Invasive sea lavender has been controlled region-wide for only 5 years. It's easier to get to than Spartina. It's up in the mid-marsh rather than down in the tidal zone, and it's already been reduced 65% with an investment of less than $1 million. Notably, WMA's weed management areas in all 5 counties with Limonium infestations are actively helping to fund the effort. Finally, paspalum was just treated this year for the first time, with only small populations known from Santa Clara County. We're getting on the paspalum much earlier in the invasion process than we were able to with either Spartina or Limonium. Our reaction time is getting faster. That's a positive sign, and it's a function of building relationships and working together, as well as new communication and reporting tools. So there are positive signs in our ability to detect and respond to new invasive plants. The work of weed management area partnerships has really thrived especially when there have been seed grants from the state, and we hope to see those continue in the future. And as we work to strengthen overall collaborative stewardship in the Bay Area for all types of stewardship, know that we can lean on the existing networks of people and organizations that have been established through the region's weed management areas. So thank you so much for your time and attention, and I look forward to hearing the other presentations. Thanks, Annie.
Thank you so much, Doug. It's great to hear about the networks of people that are helping networks of plants stay where they need to stay and keep the plants where they're happiest. So thank you so much for that presentation. We're going to move now to Valerie Lee from Grassroots Ecology to talk about community-based habitat restoration. Welcome, Valerie. Really glad that you're here.
Thank you. Happy to be here. It's such an honor to speak with all of you. Welcome to my bedroom. Thank you, Together Bay Area, for having me, and thank you all the rest of you for trusting me with even 5 minutes of your 2 most precious resources, your time and your energy. I'm Val. I work for Grassroots Ecology, which is a nonprofit based in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties, and I'm the community engagement manager. You can read our mission and our distribution focus on my slide here. But the question I'll do my best to answer is, how is Grassroots Ecology restoring essential habitats? Like it is for all the rest of us, it's dependent on quite a few different factors, like the project location, the environmental degradation that has occurred, what ecosystem it is, the monitoring results that impact our management strategies, partnerships that support us in this work. You all know, so on and so forth. And for us, all of these considerations are a part of the equation. But what I'll speak about today, one of the main things that we additionally focus on at Grassroots Ecology is the community that surrounds the degraded land, and caring not only about the land and how to restore it, but also caring about the relationship that these community members have with these natural spaces and employing techniques in order to restore those relationships as well. So what we do at Grassroots Ecology that has an essential impact on restoring essential habitats is including the community in the process every step of the way. I like to say that our niche is the intersection of people and plants. And some of our programming is the very basis for a community's ability to take action for the health of their local ecosystem. I'll speak today about one community-based habitat restoration program we do at Grassroots Ecology, the one over the past pandemic time warp and a half that we have solidified across our organization. We call this program Youth Stewards. Each of the past 5 seasons or sessions was about 8 weeks long. That was summer 2020, fall, winter, spring, and summer 2021, which just ended this past July. Each session had stable cohorts of 10 to 15 middle or high school aged volunteers per site, with 7 different restoration locations offered each season. After applying and being accepted, 1 time a week for 3 hours each week, youth stewards would meet regularly at their assigned site to do a few different things: participate in community building games, develop skills as a naturalist through journaling activities, learn from Grassroots Ecology staff, restoration ecologists, and naturalists, and work together to complete the season's priority habitat restoration work. We also have the option and resources to support participants in completing a capstone project designed to multiply their impact into their own community. We have a pre-program survey, a post-program survey, both of which, in addition to all staff debriefs and lesson sharing, support our communal iterative process on how to facilitate the best program possible. And believe it or not, after 5 seasons, we're still not there. This photo in the center, titled Naturalist Journaling, is me pointing out a picture of a portion of eroded creek bank and tasking my stewards to observe it closely and depict it as best as possible in their nature journals. We have a steward in the top right, captioned Environmental Education, who is learning about monitoring the water quality of a local creek. Many sites start each session with community building games where we're learning simple attributes of one another, like their name, associated schools, and maybe the potential topic they would speak on if they were to host a podcast. These small icebreaker activities have really big impacts when it comes to the comfort level of each volunteer and their ability to engage with one another, and thus the Youth Steward program. Plus, through native plant installation and invasive plant management, we're growing ecological knowledge, but also ecological autonomy as we all work together in making our corner of the world more biodiverse and more personally relatable. To finish off my very long time today, I want to say that I know our global issues may seem unsurmountable, but I also know, especially here today, I'm in really good company when I say that change starts in ourselves and in the communities that we can, in fact, impact. Sometimes, and I would argue oftentimes, hope begins with removing a corner of weeds and in time seeing diversity flourish in its place, or by speaking to your fellow volunteer, a 6th grader who you spend 8 weeks with, but after that might never see again, and learning about their intense obsession with endangered species. Or for our staff at Grassroots Ecology, watching that conversation between volunteers take place with a very slight smile on your face and appreciating the super important role of having a seat at the table of a young person's growing perspective of what our world can and does look like. Thanks for listening today about Grassroots Ecology's Youth Steward program. We have quite a few other ways that we engage the community in habitat restoration, so feel free to check out our website or email me or all of the above. I hope to hear from everyone who has thoughts, feedback, or questions about the way that we involve the community in restoring habitat in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. Thanks.
Ooh, thank you so much, Valerie. That was fabulous. You're clearly doing really good, important work on the individual and local scale that adds up to something pretty great at the regional, state, and global level. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for being a member of Together Bay Area and contributing and participating as much as you all do. Great. Well, we are going to travel now from Grassroots Ecology, based in the South Bay, up to San Francisco to Golden Gate Park, where the California Academy of Sciences, also a Together Bay Area member, is located, and to hear more from Rebecca Johnson about a new initiative that the Academy is just launching out of COVID, out of everything that all on Zoom. So thank you so much for being here, Rebecca. Really looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks so much, Annie, and thanks everyone else. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Johnson, and I'm the co-director, along with Allison Young, of the Center for Biodiversity and Community Science at the Cal Academy. I'm so happy to be here today on California Biodiversity Day to share a bit about the Academy and our new strategic initiative, Thriving California. So the Academy's work in California is not new. California is our home and our roots. We were founded to explore and celebrate nature and diversity in California. And the work I'm going to tell you a bit about today leverages our 168-year history and takes it outside our walls and joins it together with community voices and expertise to work together as a powerful force to regenerate California's nature and its people's relationship to nature. So I only have a short time today, and I'm going to give you a 30,000-foot view of one part of our initiative, unlocking the power of biodiversity data, which at its core has these three questions. How has California changed? How is California changing? And how can understanding biodiversity change lead to resilience, regeneration, and ecosystem health? So when most people, oops, you guys didn't see my slide didn't change. Hold on one sec. Great. So when most people think of the Cal Academy, we think of this building, right? Our Natural History Museum, our planetarium, aquarium, think about Claude, the albino alligator, school field trips, maybe nightlife. And I hope when you think of these things, you think about a moment you experienced awe and wonder or learned something new at the Academy. So I love the public floor a whole bunch, but it's only one part of the Academy. And today I want to talk to you more about the hidden and equally wondrous part of the museum, the part that informs so much of our work, our heart and soul, our natural history collections. So we care for over 46 million specimens in our collection. And as the oldest natural history museum west of the Mississippi River, we have one of the largest collections of California biodiversity in the world. We have around 8 million specimens from California. And each of these specimens is a species occurrence record and serves as evidence of where species were found. Only around 10% of these records are digitized and easily accessible to answer big questions like the ones I laid out before. How has California changed and how is California changing? That remaining 90% is super critical. If we want to understand how things have changed, we need baselines that give us the whole picture. These data are an untapped treasure trove of information that can help us. Through this new work, we'll be unlocking and utilizing for the first time millions of data points on where species were found by digitizing our collection's data. Mobilizing historic biodiversity data will allow us to build snapshots of biodiversity through time, something we've never been able to do before. But if we want to look at change, we need to know the state of biodiversity now. And we also have those data my team and others throughout the state have been working for the past 10 years to collect, shoulder to shoulder with other Californians using iNaturalist. So we work to provide opportunities for people to share their observations of nature, and that collective work has resulted in over 7.5 million observations made in California by almost 185,000 people. Just over 10% of all observations on iNaturalist are from California. And in the Bay Area, there have been 2.6 million observations made and shared by over 71,000 people. And these are really big numbers, right? So it's important to always remind ourselves that those observations were made by people, noticing and observing nature and sharing what they found. So we will build on this previous work to build coalitions documenting biodiversity with a new focus on collaborating with communities to identify key issues of concern around nature where they live. We'll provide resources and training for local partners to gather data in places that are data poor, and we'll learn from people about their places, help people know and become more connected to their local nature. We'll engage millions of people in statewide community science campaigns to understand the current distribution of California's biodiversity. Knowing where plants and animals are found now is critical to planning for the future to answer how is California changing. So these two data sets together, the historic information from our collections, information that's never been available or utilized at scale, and the community collected data on nature now, which is rarely, if ever, used for conservation planning, will reveal new patterns and insights. We'll be able to identify which species are missing from which species and places are most under threat, which are doing well, and how species distributions and interactions are changing. We'll be able to identify past drivers of change and use that information to forecast future scenarios based on climate projections. And we'll be able to identify the biodiversity hallmarks of resilience, ecosystem health, and the best opportunities for regeneration. So we're so excited to take the work we do now to the next level, and we'll need land management and community partners to realize this vision. So please reach out if you'd like to learn more. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Just there were some questions in the chat. The first picture was from the top of Mount Tam, correct? Yep, looking south.
It was.
Yeah, looking south
Yeah.
into Richardson Bay.
Exactly.
These are the important things. So
These are really important things, of course.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. We're going to take I just want to pause for a minute as we transition to our next speaker. to welcome those who are just joining us. Thank you for coming and making time in your day to learn about what's happening around the region regarding biodiversity. I also want to reflect that one of the things that we're hearing about from these presentations is communities, and as Dr. Corbin from Portland State has said, and I really love, about flora, fauna, and folks. So these presentations are not just about the plants and the animals and the work that we need to do and are doing to ensure that they can thrive, but also how we're engaging communities in that work. And I just really value that. And I just wanted to pause on that while our next speaker is coming up. And also just want to say that if you have questions for our speakers, which I really hope you do, you're going to have a chance to speak with them directly after the showcase in one of the breakout rooms. We also will be sharing their contact information. So I bet you all have questions, and we want to do what we can to make sure that you get them answered. And there we go. Noelle has helped us out. There's the fourth F, flora, fauna, folks, and fungi. All right, Susan, are you ready to present?
I think I am.
Great. So Stanley, can we move me off the big stage? There we go. All right, so our next speaker is Susan Kirks from Paula Lane Action Network, and she's here to talk about a very amazing animal. And her presentation is called "We Are All Connected: Wildlife Corridors and Crossings."
We're almost there. We were there.
We were, and we will be back.
And we will be.
There you go. I know every single person on this Zoom has battled Zoom at one point or another.
Are we there?
There
Can you all see my screen?
We can see it. You're ready.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Annie, and thank you, everyone. I'm Susan Kirks. I'm so happy to join with the presenters today from Paula Lane Action Network. We're based in Sonoma County, and we work with agencies, organizations, property owners in the Bay Area, but also in California, specifically related to American badger research, education, and conservation. And the project I'd like to share with you today is We Are All Connected. This is a project that has been in the works for 21 years by our all volunteer small nonprofit. And this project documents wildlife corridors and wildlife crossings. It's the project I'd like to share with you today is part one of a three-part project. This is wildlife corridors and crossings using American badger sightings, deceased and living, as well as multiple other species: bobcat, mountain lion, coyote, skunk, opossum. Basically, all of our species who need to move from habitat area to habitat area, and which will help us identify areas to conserve, and as well as highways and roads for crossings. And so the first part actually came to fruition over 14 years of organically observing and observing species and receiving reports from bikers, cyclists, birders. Birders are great observers, and just regular people who happen to see dead wildlife on the side of the road, or who were so excited they had seen a badger and they wanted to report that to someone. And so we provide email and phone contacts for that reporting. After about 14 years of these combined methods, the way that our wildlife move and connect to each other and across highways and properties revealed itself. And so I'd like to just mention the earlier presentation by Valerie of Grassroots Ecology. I really resonated with what she said about the intersection between plants and people. For us, the intersection is the reverence for land and when we're on land and when we're seeing wildlife. So there's the intersection between people and wildlife and caring about how we can conserve to help our wildlife. The American badger is a keystone species, and it is in our coastal and inland grassland systems. And so what you're seeing on this slide, of course, are two large badger burrows on one of the protected properties in Petaluma. And so looking at this as well as the species itself, because badgers are not seen too frequently, helps me as a naturalist to also identify land areas. And we are looking for particularly 2 seasons of the year. In summer, there's a lot of badger movement. Juveniles disperse from their mothers, and so there's a lot of movement, and unfortunately, there's also a lot of death. And then in the fall season, the males are moving to and from natal territories. And so an adult female badger stays in her territory, but male badgers move a lot. And so we need to find out where they're moving and how we need to protect those areas. What you're looking at right now is a natal territory, and this was in an autumn season. Oops, sorry. I'm almost going to my next slide. And so for the American badger, when we particularly documented summer and autumn movement patterns, that also helped us to come up with our wildlife corridor mapping. And so this is a picture of the map for the South Sonoma County region. The dotted lines are the corridors, and then there are some solid brown areas that are the crossings from Highway 101 that need to be modified. And then around this area, you may see the critical, whoops, sorry, that's my timer. The critical link, oh, did I get Matt? Did you, sorry. Oops, that was my own timer. Did I get muted?
Nope, you're
Oh,
here.
no, I'm
and
still
if you-
here. I'm almost finished. I just have 10 more seconds.
Great.
So around the map that we saw, which is here, thank you. The tan area is the critical linkages area for the Bay Area Critical Linkages Report. And so as we map our corridors locally and we all work together with reverence for the land and observing our species, we can fill in the blanks and contribute to our wildlife corridors and crossings to help the regional effort. Thank you all so much for your compassion and your patience.
Thank you so much, Susan. I know that everyone here understands the fun and the challenges of Zoom presentations. So thank you so much. And thank you for bringing a picture of a badger into our day. Really appreciate it. Great. All right. We have one more presentation, also about a very adorable mammal. I'm really excited to welcome another Together Bay Area member to the stage, the River Otter Ecology Project, and Terrence Carroll, who's going to tell us about connecting communities and conservation. Terrence?
Hi, everyone. I'm all good with my slideshow, I assume?
Yes, you look great.
Thanks. I'm Terrence Carroll. I'm the co-founder and research director of River Otter Ecology Project. And thank you to Together Bay Area for hosting this gathering today. The river otters are an indicator species for watershed health and function. Their presence in urban areas reminds us that even degraded habitats in densely populated areas can be stores of biodiversity. As part of our Otter Spotter Community Science Program, we have a new project that focuses on urbanized areas where river otters are present. Our goal is to increase community support for and participation in local conservation of shared habitats for the mutual benefit of wildlife and people. River otters are present in urban watersheds throughout the Bay Area. I'm going to be using this particular family of river otters who thrive in the Contra Costa Canal as an example to talk very, very briefly about the intersection of community science and conservation in urban areas. This map shows a section of our otter spotter sightings map. The whole map is available on our website if you're interested in looking at it. Anyone can send us a report of their river otter sighting, and the yellow dots that you see represent places where people have reported seeing river otters. In the bottom right of the map, the red arrow points towards the Turtle Creek neighborhood in Concord. And it appears that this is where this otter family, the mothers give birth and rear their pups until they're big enough to travel. And then they move over to the canal, which is marked by the red arrow on the left side of the map. The central habitat features here are a man-made pond at Turtle Creek, the canal itself, which is a concrete water conveyance system that dates back to the 1930s and 1940s, and an urban creek, Galinda Creek, that connects the two. This area has all the habitat elements that river otters need: reasonably clean water, food, shelter of some sort, and connectivity. And in the bottom right, you can see the little river otter family in their pond at Turtle Creek. And then just above that is 2 river otters in the canal itself. The little pup whose head is peeking out from the drainage pipe, and then the mother who's on the wall of the canal. And this photo was taken from a road crossing above the canal, which is why it kind of looks like it's upside down. It was actually the photographer who was upside down. And here's some more pictures of these river otters. One eating a fish that it caught in the canal. One exploring a very large bag of garbage. This is by no means a pristine environment. And then what appears to be a very well-fed pup who's having its afternoon nap. So our question is, how can the value of urban habitats like this be conserved and enhanced, both for wildlife and for the people who live there? And our thought is that the answer to that question has to begin with the people who live in these places. So our project has 3 basic parts right now. One is awareness and education, which is ongoing through presentations and community engagement by some of our volunteers. And then next year, with funding from Marin County, we'll be doing a pilot project for community-led conservation in an underserved neighborhood here in Marin County. And then finally, we'll be working with the Institute for Integrative Conservation at the College of William and Mary on case studies and an action plan for community-led conservation. This will be a student project with participation from us and from faculty advisors at the college in environmental science, sociology, and environmental justice. And our goal here is to expand this program, if we're successful, throughout the Bay Area, because as I mentioned, this is only one of the places where this phenomenon occurs. And last, I'd like to acknowledge and thank our extraordinary volunteer, Karen James. Karen has documented the lives of these river otters in the canal for a number of years, and these are all her photos that you have been looking at. So thank you very much for the time.
Great, thank you so much, Terrence. I know we're not supposed to think they're all so cuddly, but they look really cuddly.
You wouldn't want to, but yes,
No.
they do.
They look like it. I know that there's more to it than that. So thank you so much for sharing and sharing your work and doing all the work that you do.
Thanks.
Great. That wraps up our member showcase, our first member showcase of Together Tuesdays this fall. I want to ask you to silently, with your mute still on, to join me with in some applause. And you can choose how you want to do that. If you want to stand up and move, if you want to just clap, whatever you would like to do, a golf clap, however you want to do it. But join me in thanking Doug Johnson from California Invasive Plant Council, Valerie Lee from Grassroots Ecology, Rebecca Johnson from California Academy of Sciences, Susan Kirks from Paula Lane Action Network, and Terrence Carroll from the River Otter Ecology Project. Thank you all so much for making the time to be here today to present. I know that everyone is very busy, and so making some time to make a very short presentation, which I think is perhaps harder than a longer presentation, really does mean a lot to us. So thank you very much. And I wish the speakers could hear all of your applause, because I know that you're out there applauding. As we said at the beginning, we really want to encourage you to connect. We're going to share in the chat here the Google Doc that has the presentation's overview, as well as the email addresses of our speakers. So we encourage you to reach out to these folks, to give them some support, to ask questions, to make connections. This is not an opportunity for a sales pitch or a sales call. It's really in the spirit of collaboration and coordination and learning and connecting that we share that information. Thank you so much to our 5 speakers today. Really appreciate it. All 5 of these organizations are Together Bay Area members, so I want to welcome Jose Setka back to the stage to join me in talking about what it means to be a member of Together Bay Area.
We get to follow badgers and otters. That's tough. That's a tough to follow.
And I will have to rearrange the agenda next time, Jose. Or we're going to have to bring in some pictures, some cute pictures to balance things out. So we're kicking off our membership campaign this fall. We're kicking it off right now. And we want to know, instead of me telling you how great Together Bay Area is, we thought we'd bring one of our board members to the stage to talk about it. So I have a few questions for you, Jose. One is, why is East Bay Mud a member of Together Bay Area? And why is it important for your agency to be a part of this regional coalition?
Sure. So, most people obviously know East Bay Mud as the water provider for about 1.4 million customers within East Bay. Also provide wastewater services. But with that also comes control, ownership, oversight of natural resources. And in the case of the East Bay, we have over 30,000 acres of land in the East Bay area, which includes 2 recreation areas, one on San Pablo, one on Lafayette. We have about 50 miles of trails that include hiking, horses, and some limited mountain biking. And many of those trails connect up with other agencies that are part of our Together Bay Area group, including East Bay Regional Parks and the Bay Area Ridge Trail. So clearly, as a water company and as a company that has natural resources stewardship as one of its 2 primary goals and objectives, it's important for us to collaborate with our neighbors and neighbor organizations.
Yeah, great. What about you personally? There's the agency, which is however many staff and, a large agency, and it's important to be a part of the community of agencies and organizations, but I'm also curious about your own participation.
Right. So, I come from a science background. Policy is the second half of my career, but mainly it's been science. So for me, better understanding and recognizing how public, how community, how other organizations view our watershed, not from a science perspective, but from either a recreation or simply a natural resources place of peace or calm, if you will. Getting an understanding of that for me helps in the work that I do within the district in terms of helping our managers, our land managers, and our supervisors recognize, what value our programs have for folks, and maybe try to tailor those or improve upon those so that we do a better job and provide better access to those lands.
Mm-hmm. So you get some visibility into what's happening around you and around the region that you might not if you were just staying within the East Bay Mud walls.
And historically, we've done that. And, mm-hmm. and there have been a few good things that have come from the pandemic, not many, but a few. And I think that's one of them. Is I think it's caused us to take an inward look and say, okay, you know, we have this resource. Clearly, there's a high demand for it. We've seen it. Many of our organizations have seen that over the course of the last couple of years. So how can we improve upon our access without, you know, having some adverse impacts? So clearly, you know, water quality is one of the prime areas that we're concerned with from a drinking water perspective. But clearly, there's a lot we can do to improve the access and to have people understand that we exist. We're out there, and you know, we're open for business, if you will.
That's great. Last question for you is, can you share one thing that makes you excited about what Together Bay Area is doing, perhaps looking to the future, or perhaps something that we're working on now?
You know, for me, it's the future. Clearly, you know, the role that natural resources and recreation and open space lands play, I think, has changed due to the pandemic. And I think in the future there will be a much higher demand for that. And for me, trying to make sure that those communities that typically don't know about, really don't get to see nature, how do we engage with those folks? And at the district, what we've done, partly in just kind of talking with some of our members and some of the meetings that we've had over the course of the last 2 years, is we've created a free trail permit program. So we've taken our customer assistance program, which is where individuals that have certain, you know, that are having difficulties paying bills, there's a program there to help them and offset some of the costs of their bills. We have created a program now where we have sent all those participants trail permits, free trail permits, one annual permit. So they can come, you know, fill it out, come onto our land and use our trails. The next step, the key step, then, you know, working through someone like this organization, how do we connect more people and physically connect? Because that's one of the missing links to our land, is we're not easily accessible by public transportation. You can do it, but it's not an easy trip. So how do we improve upon that? What connections can we make? What organizations can we work with that will help us build those connections to those communities that typically don't have access to public open space lands?
Great, thank you so much, Jose, for sharing both your personal experience as well as the value for your agency. I think in between some of the things you've shared, you know, some of the value is from being on the board of directors, and we really are very appreciative of your time on the board. But also from attending events like this, meetings that we've been convening over the past 18 months with public land management agencies, with all sorts of different kinds of people from around the region that, you know, perhaps before Zoom was normalized would be really challenging to convene. And now it's relatively easy. It's not as much fun to be on Zoom as it is to be in person, but the ability to convene people from, you know, South San Jose to north of Santa Rosa is much easier to do now. And some of that then translates into value to you as a member in terms of what you were able to learn. So thank you so much for sharing today and for being a part of this event. And I want to say, for all of you who are current members, we invite you to renew. And in the chat now is a link to our membership page. Membership is for nonprofits, public agencies, indigenous tribes and groups in the 9 counties of the Bay Area plus Santa Cruz, so 10 counties. And we invite you to join, to renew, to learn more.